Vlachs is a historical term used for Eastern Romance-speaking peoples in the Balkans and Eastern Europe, several modern peoples descending from the Romanized population in present-day Romania and Moldova, the southern Balkan Peninsula and south and west of the Danube. They were identified during the 11th century, and their migration period is a matter of scholarly speculation. According to one origin theory, the Vlachs originated from Latinized Dacians. According to some linguists and scholars, the Eastern Romance languages proves the survival of the Thraco-Romans in the lower Danube basin during the migration period in Western Balkan. Populations known as Vlachs also have had Romanized Illyrian origins. Nearly all Central and Southeastern European nations have native Vlach minorities. In other countries, the Vlachs have assimilated with the Slavic population. The term was also commonly used for shepherds. Today, the Eastern Romance-speaking communities number 24,187,810 people. Etymology. The word Vlach is of Germanic in origin, deriving from Ola and used by ancient Germanic peoples for their Romance-speaking and Celtic neighbors. Wala may have derived from the name of a Celtic tribe, known to the Romans as Volca in the writings of Julius Caesar and to the Greeks as Wokai in texts by Strabo and Ptolemy. Vlach shares its history with European ethnic names including the Welsh and Walloons. The word passed to the Slavs and from them to other peoples, such as the Hungarians and Byzantines, and was used for all Latin people from the Balkans. In Bosnia, Orthodox Christians were called Vlachs, a synonym of Serbs. The Polish word for Italian has the same origin, as does the Slovenian, vaguely derogatory Lach. The Italian-speaking region south of the South Tyrol, now Trentino in Italy, was known as Welsh Tyrol in the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Vlach is also a derogatory term used in Croatia when referring to inhabitants of Dalmatian hinterland in the Dinarides area, regardless of their religious affiliation, and in Bosnia referring to a person of Eastern Orthodox Church. History. The first record of a medieval Romance language in the Balkans dates to the early Byzantine period, with Procopius mentioning forts with names such as Skepticus, Bergalachu, Lupo Fontana and Gemilo Mountus. A 586 Byzantine chronicle of an incursion against the Avars in the Eastern Balkans may have one of the earliest references to Vlachs. In the account, when baggage carried by a mule slipped, the muleteer shouted, "Tourne, tourne, frate." Byzantine historians used the Germanic Vlachs for Latin speakers, particularly Romanians. The name Blockmen is mentioned in a Nordic saga, with respect to events in 1018 or 1019 believed by some to be related to the Vlachs. Traveller Benjamin of Tudela of the Kingdom of Navarre was one of the first writers to use the word Vlachs for a Romance-speaking population. According to 10th-century Arab chronicler Mutar al-Makdisi, they say that in the Turkic neighborhood there are the Khazars, Russians, Slavs, Wallach, Alans, Greeks and many other peoples. Byzantine writer Kekaumenos, author of the Strategikon, described a 1066 Roman revolt in northern Greece. During the late 9th century the Hungarians invaded the Pannonian Basin, where the province of Pannonia was inhabited, according to the Gesta Hungarorum, written around 1200 by the anonymous chancellor of King Bela III of Hungary, by Slavs, Bulgars, Vlachs, and Pastors Romanorum, shepherds of the Romans. Between the 12th and 14th centuries they were ruled by the Kingdom of Hungary, the Byzantine Empire and the Golden Horde. In Chapter 14 of the Alexiad, Anna Komnena identifies Vlachs from the Balkans with the Dacians, describing their region around Haemus Mons. On either side of its slopes dwell many very wealthy tribes, the Dacians and the Thracians on the northern side, and on the southern, more Thracians and the Macedonians. Byzantine historian John Kinnamos described Leon Vatatzes' military expedition along the northern Danube, where Vatatzes mentioned the participation of Vlachs in battles with the Magyars in 1166. In 1213 an army of Romans, Saxons and Pechenegs, led by Joachim of Sibiu, attacked the Bulgars and Cumans from Vidin. After this, all Hungarian battles in the Carpathian region were supported by Romance-speaking soldiers from Transylvania. At the end of the 13th century, during the reign of Ladislaus the Cuman, Simon de Keza wrote about the Vlachs and placed him in Pannonia with the Huns. Archaeological discoveries indicate that Transylvania was gradually settled by the Magyars, and the last region defended by the Vlachs and Pechenegs was between the Olt River and the Carpathians. Shortly after the fall of the Olt region, a church was built at the Carter monastery and Catholic Saxons began to settle in the Orthodox region. In the Diploma Andreanum issued by Andrew II of Hungary in 1224, silver black aurum abysinorum was given to the settlers. The Orthodox Vlachs spread along the Carpathians to Poland. Slovakia and Moravia were granted autonomy under ius Vlachonicum. In 1285 Ladislaus the Cuman fought the Tartars and Cumans, arriving with his troops at the Moldova River. A town, Bayer, was documented in 1300 as settled by Saxons. In 1290 Ladislaus the Cuman was assassinated. The new Magyar king allegedly drove Raduni Gru and his people across the Carpathians, where they formed Wallachia. Demographics. The Eastern Romance languages are a group of Romance languages which developed in southeastern Europe from Eastern Volga Latin. Speakers of these languages are, by country, Daco-Romanians, according to Ethnologue, 23,681,610 speak the Romanian language or one of its dialects in Romania, 16,869,816, Moldova 2,815,000, Ukraine 409,600, in southern Bessarabia, northern Bukovina and between the Dniester and southern Bug rivers, Serbia 35,330, Hungary 35,641, Bulgaria 3,584 persons were counted as Vlachs and 891 as Romanians in 2011. Aromanians, up to 500,000, live in Greece, 50,000, mainly in the Pindus Mountains. Greece, like France, does not recognize ethnic divisions. Albania 100,000 to 200,000, Romania 260,500, Macedonia 9,695. Meglano-Romanians, speaking the Meglano-Romanian language in Greece and Macedonia 5,000. Istro-Romanians, speaking the Istro-Romanian language in Croatia 1,200, with fewer than 200 native speakers. Morlachs, originally shepherds in the Dinaric Alps, they were an amalgam of Romanized indigenous peoples, Roman army veterans and Roman colonists. According to the 2011 Czech census, 22 people identified as Morlachs. Historical states, territories and eponymous regions. In addition to groups of Aromanians and Meglano-Romanians during the migration period, Vlachs could be found throughout the Balkans, as far north as Poland, as far west as Moravia and in present-day Croatia by the Slavs. States mentioned in medieval chronicles were Wallachia, between the southern Carpathians and the Danube, Basarab Wallachia, and Wallachia Secunda on Spanish maps. Moldavia, between the Carpathians and the Dniester River, Bogdani Flak or Wallachia in Polish sources, Lotra Wallachia in Genovesa sources and Wallachia Tertia on Spanish maps. Transylvania, mentioned by Pope Honorius III in 1222. Vlachs led by Plascania supported the Tartars in the 1223 Battle of Kalka. Vlach lands near Galicia in the west, Volhynia in the north, Moldova in the south and the Bolochovny lands in the east were conquered by Galicia. Bolochovny was Vlach land between Kiev and the Dniester in Ukraine. Place names were Olahovets, Olshny, Wolochi and Vlodava, mentioned in 11th to 13th century Slavonic chronicles. It was conquered by Galicia. Regions and places are White Wallachia in Moesia, Great Wallachia in Thessaly, Small Wallachia in Aetolia, Acarnania, Dorida and Locrida, Sirmium Wallachia on the Sava River, Black Wallachia in Dalmatia, Upper Wallachia of Moscopole and Metsovan in southern Macedonia, Albania and Epirus, Old Wallachia in eastern Bosnia and Herzegovina and western Serbia, Romanija Mountain in eastern Bosnia and Herzegovina, Vlachs County, a former county of southern Wallachia, Muntenia, east of the Olt River, Oltenia, west of the Olt, Banat, also known as Vlachs, Wallachia and Vlachozemski, Fagaras and Haytug, Maramuors, Moravian Wallachia, in the Beskid Mountains of the Czech Republic. Genetics. In 2006, Bosch et al. Attempted to determine if the Vlachs are descendants of Latinized Dacians, Illyrians, Thracians, Greeks or a combination of these. But no hypothesis could be proven because of the underlying genetic similarity of all the tested Balkan groups. Linguistic and cultural differences between Balkan groups were deemed too weak to prevent gene flow among the groups. Culture. Due to the association of Vlachs and sheep herding, since the Middle Ages their ethnonym has come to mean shepherd in many Balkan and Central European languages. During the Middle Ages, many Vlachs were shepherds who drove their flocks through the mountains of southeastern Europe. Vlach shepherds reached as far north as southern Poland and Moravia by following the Carpathians, the Dinaric Alps in the west, the Pindus Mountains in the south and the Caucasus Mountains in the east. Vlachs have been called the perfect Balkan citizens because they are able to preserve their culture without resorting to war or politics, violence or dishonesty. Languages. The Vlachs in the southern Balkan Peninsula are self-defined as Alpha-Armeni or Remani, terms deriving from the Latin Romani. Most Vlachs live in Greece, Albania, Macedonia and Romania, with the Pindus Mountains considered their historic cradle. The Eastern Romance languages were primarily oral, and Greek was the Vlachs' written language.